Hey, what's up you guys? So today I wanted to talk about everything that I read and watched in the month of July. So this past month has been a pretty good month for me reading wise. At the beginning of the month it was not looking like it was going to be, but I kind of turned it around at the end of the month and wound up reading a decent amount. Why she gotta do that? She was sleeping before I started filming and then she gotta wake up and start tearing up the paper again. Watching wise, I really didn't watch that much this month. I did watch a couple shows. I didn't really watch any movies this month, so I'm going to try to work on that this next month. So let's just kick it off with some of the books that I read. So the first thing that was on my TBR for this month was the last 3 books in the Bloodline series. I finally got the Ruby Circle like a couple days ago and finished it in like a day. So I did finish this series finally once and for all. So Silver Shadows and the Fiery Heart were rereads for me, and then Ruby Circle was new. My ratings for these books are a 4 out of 5 stars, a 4 out of 5 stars, and a 3 out of 5 stars. I did overall really enjoy this series, and this last book, I've been just laughing my ass off while I've been reading it. It was a little underwhelming in some respects with regards to how everything kind of concluded, and I feel like the conclusion left me hanging in a few regards. Like there are a couple characters where I feel like I didn't get the end of their story, and I'm curious why I didn't get that end. But I did really enjoy it. Towards the end of the series, it just started to read like really good fan fiction. You know, that type of fan fiction where it's just so ridiculous what's happening, but you're also so there for it. This was that book, because like they got married in a Vegas wedding, they had a kid, but like it wasn't their kid. They adopted one of their friends' kids. Sorry if I'm spoiling the whole series for you, but like, dude, this is crazy. It's like a telenovela or something, you know? So I definitely recommend this series if you are there for really awesome, slightly cringy, sometimes romance. Also, I do feel like the relationship in this story is really relatable, especially with the Fiery Heart and Ruby Circle. I feel like it's really relatable in these 2 books because the Fiery Heart, they are really dealing with a lot of like family outside issues and outside pressures on their relationship, and so I just think that it's really interesting to see that dynamic play out. And then in the Ruby Circle, they are now married, and so they're having these like marital spats. And it just shows that even though a relationship, however strong it may be, there are issues sometimes and you have to learn how to deal with that. And I just really like that because even though they had these fights and they were struggling, they were able to come to compromises with one another. And I think that that is what you really need to strive for in relationships, is compromise. Like you have to learn how to compromise. So I feel like this book really showed that. Another thing that I really liked about it was with Sydney and Adrian's relationship, again, the focus of how they were talking to each other changes in the book as the story progresses. So in the beginning of the book, the way in which Sydney speaks to Adrian, she's very much like, you have to do this, I need you to do this, this is what you have to do, please do this. And so he doesn't really take to that well. He doesn't like being told what to do. No one likes being told what to do. So towards the end of this book, she kind of shifts the way that she's talking to him, and instead of almost trying to force him to do things her way, she comes to this understanding that you can't force someone to do what you want. So she starts talking to him in a more supportive way, in a more, I understand that you're gonna make your choices. I want you to do what is safest for you. And I'm nervous that these choices that you are making are not the safest for you, but I will respect your decisions. Like that is how the way in which she speaks to Adrian shifts throughout the novel, and I think that that is a really important thing to teach as far as relationships are concerned. So I think that this relationship in these stories is probably one of my favorites that I've ever seen, just because they go through so many real struggles. There are financial struggles, there are, you know, like addiction struggles. So, you know, they go through very real things in these books, and I think that the way in which they deal with them and the way that their relationship goes, I just think that it's a really strong relationship, and it really shows how a relationship isn't always easy. And I think that people get like the Hollywood version of a relationship in their head, and they think that, oh, it's just supposed to be so easy, and it's not always easy. Sometimes you do have to make compromises. You know, sometimes someone wants to live in a house in the city and then your husband wants to live in a house by the lake, and it's like, how do you make that compromise? And then the people on HGTV have to make that compromise somehow for them. So I love these books. So definitely recommend this series if you want to check it out. Again, the reason why I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars compared to the other two is just because the ending, again, was a little underwhelming, but it was still a very strong book, and I do still really enjoy all of these characters. The next thing I read was Yes Please by Amy Poehler. I read this both in audiobook format and in physical book format, and I really enjoyed this book by Amy Poehler. I think I gave it a 4.5 stars out of 5. Yeah, I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, if I remember correctly. I might have to go back and rewatch one of my vlogs and check, but I read this during the reading rush, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought that Amy Poehler was so funny and so creative, and I really loved getting more background on SNL and learning about UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade, and I just really loved learning more about her story and how she came to the industry of comedy. So definitely recommend this memoir. I'm not normally someone who picks up memoirs, but I really enjoyed it and definitely recommend it. And you also learn more about Parks and Rec too, like her background with it. And there's also like different sections that are by different people too. Like you get some input from her parents, you get some input from Seth Meyers, you get some input from the other creator on Parks and Rec. I don't remember his name. I think it's like Mike something. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. I know how to edit. So after that, I read another series. I also read this mostly during the reading rush, which was Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I read this whole series, and I've got book talks currently up for Scythe and Thunderhead. I will be putting the book talk up for the Toll hopefully on Monday, but maybe not because I suck at editing those. So anyways, with Scythe, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a really great opener to a series. The only thing that I thought that it was missing was some comedic moments, as I have said before in my previous videos, and the next 2 books in the series definitely delivered. And the next 2 books are Thunderhead and The Toll. So this series is about 2 Scythe apprentices in a world where death is no longer a thing, and so Scythes are people who go and kill people in order to control the population, and this series overall was just fantastic. It is the best thing that I've read in a long ass time. These books really left me so shook. Like that is the one thing that like I just, the overwhelming emotion that I got out of these books was just shook, because like the plot twists, every twist, like it takes you on such a journey, and it's such a ride. So I really do recommend this series if you haven't read it yet. Do check it out. My favorite book in the trilogy was probably the Thunderhead, but that's probably because the Thunderhead was my favorite character in the series overall. I also really loved Gleason and his character. He is not in the first book, but you will meet him in the second book. So please do read the series. So I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It's okay. I also really thought that the relationship developed really slowly, and it was really on the back burner, and I kind of liked that. I also really liked how in these books there are references to people who have been important in our history, and I just think that it's really cool to have that kind of respect for them and to mention them in a book like this, and I liked it. So I love these books. Yay! Oh, I've talked about all the books now. So now that I've talked about all of the books, I'm going to talk about the 2 TV shows that I rewatched. So the first one was Teen Titans, the original cartoon. I watched Teen Titans as a kid. It was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid. Raven was always my favorite character, and she still is to this day. And I just wanted to rewatch it because I needed something to just take my mind off of the world, current events. You know, you feel me? Do you ever just need to like take a step back from current events and be like, okay, I understand. I stress. Because I do. I do all the time. That's my current life status, is I stress. So the next thing that I watched was Orange is the New Black. Oh, Teen Titans, if you don't know, it's about a group of superheroes who are teenagers and they fight crime. It's based off of a DC comic, if I'm not mistaken. So the next thing that I watched was Orange is the New Black. This is a show that is based off of another book, and I only watched the first 3 seasons. I've only ever been able to get through the first 3 seasons. I don't know why I keep stopping after season 3, but I do. I think it's because of Alex. I really don't like her character that much, but I love so many of the characters in that show, and I think it's so fascinating, and I think it really highlights some of the issues that we have in our prison system, and I think that it's really important to acknowledge those issues, and I think that as a society we really need to work on those issues, especially here in the United States. We have the worst prison system, I think, out of any country ever. Like, our prison population is way too high. The number of wrongful convictions that we have, way too high. The amount of money that we spend on payouts to people who are wrongfully convicted for stuff, way too high. There's so many issues. I'm also going to recommend a mini series that's on Netflix, which is called When They See Us. It's about the Central Park 5. I highly recommend watching it because it does talk about or deal with wrongful convictions of 5 innocent Black teenagers. And I think that it's really important to highlight that issue right now, because that is also another issue of the Black Lives Matter movement, is that there are a lot of Black people who get wrongly convicted just based off of the color of their skin. So I do recommend watching that and getting informed on situations like that. I'm gonna leave some links and things for that down below, but that is something that I feel like it's not talked about enough. Maybe that's just me, but that's something that I feel like is not talked about enough. So that is everything that I read and watched in the month of July. I highly recommend checking out Scythe, recommend checking out When They See Us. Those are probably my 2 biggest recommendations from this past month. I mean, I didn't watch When They See Us this past month. I watched that a while ago, but I still recommend it. It's on Netflix. Do check it out. As always, thank you so much for watching. I post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Comment down below what you read in the month of July. I will see you in my next video. Bye!